Okay, so what we're looking at though, this is a steel fender.
It's a steel fender.
For what, by the way?
For a 35 Ford Roadster and Coupe only.
Okay.
Very rare fender because it's only correct on a Roadster and a Coupe, which is a tiny fraction of the number of cars. Most of them are four-door sedans, two-door sedans, 90% of them.
All right.
A very small fraction were actually Coupes or Roadsters. So what we did was we took these fenders, which we sold, ironically, and then realized that we were going to be building a 35 Roadster.
Okay.
And we did not have 35 Roadster fender molds.
Okay.
So somebody up there said, hey, you better call him up and see if he's okay with waylaying these for a little while.
Okay.
So we could actually use them, and then we'll send them on to the customer who actually bought these a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so once again, these are 1935 Ford Roadster metal fenders that have been prepped to create a mold.
Exactly. Well, they've been prepped for paint,
which
is the same difference. In other words, you have to have a very high degree of finish.
Right.
These are ready for paint.
Okay.
So they're all, coincidentally, they're also in a good position to make molds off of them.
Okay.
So we're building a 35 Roadster. We haven't built one in a while, so it's an opportunity that we just had to take, and I called the customer again and I said,
all right,
we only will have these long enough to make the molds, and then we'll send them along to you. And he agreed to let us do that.
So what is that lip on there for?
Well, in order for, you see, this is a multi-piece mold. And if anyone who knows these fenders know that this fender doesn't just come down and stop. It rolls under.
Oh, okay.
And that is an undercut in mold terms. So you can't just make the mold off that, because that little lip would grab the part as it's trying to come off. So what we have to do is make a disassemblable section, and that's what this wax, this is Tooler's wax that you can buy. It's stiff, formable, and as you can see here, we've made a lip that goes outboard from the fender.
Okay.
And then we'll lay this up, and we'll make the fender mold with this lip on it.
Okay.
Then we take the wax away, and then we build the rest of the fender, which includes this little turn around, and then we're going to add this lip up against the surface that this one made.
Okay.
So now we have a breakaway, it's called.
Okay.
And now when the part is made, it can be made all in one piece, and then this breakaway that runs here and all the way down through here and all the way around to the back, this there, because toolers have an instinct for what's called draft angles. And a draft angle means that this thing will now come out of the mold.
Okay.
You have to have a sixth sense almost. And having done it, Tony he's a masterful mold maker, and he's done it a lot. He knows, you can see how clean these lines are. It hits exactly on the top of the radius. So when the part is made, all you see is this tiny little line, and it's kind of out of the way, and you can just take a block sander and knock it off.
I see.
So we're at that point where we're going to make the female mold on this buck, it's called, or prototype. And then he'll drop this wax down, he'll make the rest of the mold come around the corner and up onto that lip. Now he can just simply bolt those two assemblies together.
Okay.
And when he makes the part will already include that return that goes around the corner.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's pretty complicated in metal forming. This would be a nightmare because the stamp makes it like this. It has the same problem. He doesn't go around corners.
Right.
So they have to make it, and then they take it off, and then they put it through a roll beater, and it turns that little lip around. But that's what gives this fender strength, and a lot of companies make this and cut that off. Well, now the fenders just fly away. It has no real strength. But when you turn that corner, it creates a return and creates tremendous stiffness.
Right.
And that's exactly the way this fender was supposed to be. So now when we make fenders for this car and subsequent people that want 35 Ford, or we have 36 Ford fenders as well, but now we have the complete line in 35 and 6.
Okay, so these were the two pieces we're missing.
These are the two voids in our inventory, and as usual, it got dressed. These kind of things happen a lot around here.
Wow. Okay, so now what's that behind you?
Well, the customer that bought the Roadster indicated that he wanted an indication of where the tail lights were.
Okay.
Because they could fit a lot of different places.
Right.
If he has an exact registration, and this will throw a little tiny registration onto the part.
Okay.
He'll throw it first onto the mold, and then the part will reflect that.
Right.
So now all he has to do is take he sees this little shadow line, and he just takes a jigsaw, and he can cut that open and drill it, put his taillights right on, and they're in perfect registration.
Okay.
Based on a real fender, because this will now be a composite fender.
Right.
Okay. So that's how you make a fender with returns on it. Is you make it in parts. This tooling wax is readily available, and that's one of the secrets of doing this and making. It's actually called tooler's wax. Okay. You can also create distances, but let's say that we want this fender to be a little bigger. Okay. A prescribed amount. We can simply get this thickness in 1/8, quarter, 3/16, and simply add that tooling wax. It'll conform to the fender. Okay. Very easily, and then you make your part on that. Now your part is 3/16 or a 1/4 inch bigger.
Gotcha. Now that looks like a fender back there too.
It is, and this is further down the line, and we get to see how this process goes on to the next step. So this fender has been laid up, and you can see where he's laid up fiberglass onto the wax and onto the fender, and you see the other side now. Okay, now when this dries, before he takes it off, he'll drill holes in here, because this is outboard of the actual fender, so we can put it back together exactly correct. Because right now everything's in perfect registration. Right. If I take it apart and then put it back together, it's a process of thinking things through.
Yeah, you got to step
exactly ahead of time. Once you take it apart, it makes it more difficult. Right. Right now we can drill 10 or 12 holes in this lip, and then when we take it apart and put it back together, it'll be exactly where it needs to be in order to create this fender, including these returns that would ordinarily be difficult to achieve.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
And we'll see how that, on the next step, he'll take these apart, he'll actually start laying up the part, and then these breakaways can be taken away, and the fender comes out completely complete.
Okay, one last thing. I don't think we covered this frame that this mold or this fender's sitting on. Tell me about how you do this.
Well, if you notice, it really is just a way to get it up at working level. These molds being complex and round and having all these different challenges, it makes it difficult to put it on, just lay it on a bench and work on it. So what Tony's done is he took this framework, and it's a temporary framework that allows him to get this thing up at working height, where he can just walk right up to it and work on it. It doesn't flop around, it doesn't move. And of course, this is disposable. When he's done with that, he'll just throw it away.
Yeah, okay.
But it really facilitates all the work here.
So what you're really saying is take a little bit of time.
Yeah, exactly.
To create a setup to make the work easier.
It can be made out of conduit or plywood or 2x4s. It really doesn't much matter. The point is it gets it up at working height. You can see where we got it up on a work table. Yeah. And now when he works on it, it doesn't move around and jump around on him. So he can do his work and build his. And now you see over here he's done another temporary support. It's nothing more than a couple of 2x2s, and that gets it up at working height. Now what he's doing is he's laminating this, so he wants it up and stable. Yep. So he can do his laminating. Okay. Otherwise, it's just flopping around on the table. These little steps really make things go better and easier. Yeah. And they just need to understand that those things have to be done. You know, a typical person would put this on a counter or a work, and it's just jumping all over the place. It's round. Yeah. You know. Yeah, so we got to tame it, put it in a position where we can work on it, and then the whole thing goes better. And this is something you can easily do at your own leisure, at your own house.
You don't need any heavy machinery or equipment.
No, you do not. You need a bucket of resin and some catalyst and some mat. Okay. And you can get that at Home Depot.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's nothing particularly. It's more technique. Yeah. And tooling is an art that is probably the highest form of fiberglass there is. Okay. And these guys usually have 20, 30 years experience. Tony has about 25. And when I say make a mold, I just walk away. I don't micromanage him and say, I want this, this, and this, and this, because I know that he actually knows more than I do. Yeah, right. So what do I want to do, expose my ignorance? No. I just say make the mold. Right. And I know, especially with these two guys, because they're brothers and they're incredible fabricators. Yeah. But they also are toolers when they need to be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is going to be great to follow along.
Exactly.
So are you going to end up assembling a 35 Roadster?
Yes, we're going to build the whole Roadster from the scratch.
Wow. Okay.
Everything. The molds are now being assembled as soon as we get a color from the customer. See, we make the color intrinsic to our cars.
Okay.
So you don't get a car and then go sand it down and paint it. That's a long way home. We're going to put some sort of color on it. Generally, it's black or gray. And it occurred to us many years ago, why don't we just do it in the color that the customer wants?
Okay.
It's going to get done anyway. So now we've got a rainbow of colors that you can buy the cars in and they show up in that color. And most often we can match any color that's not a metallic.
Yeah. Wow. That's very good.
Yep.
Thanks, JB.
You bet.